I am the canary raised by Elias himself. Every time he returned from a blind date, he would give me a rare antique. In just 3 years, I have received 96 antiques. It was not until the auction house sent the 97th antique that I received a wedding invitation from the man's Bai Yueguang. Little girl, do you think the wedding invitation for Elias and me should be gold-stamped or plain? Oh, by the way, our wedding is set for next month, and I look forward to your attendance. I didn't make a fuss. Instead, I took the initiative to send the prepared wedding gift to his Bai Yueguang. Seeing that I was sensible, Elias walked into my room that night and said he would reward me with a child. On the wedding day, Vivian, who learned of my pregnancy, stood on the edge of the cliff in a breakdown, threatening to jump into the sea. Elias, please don't keep this child. The man, who had always been noble and cold, humbled himself for the first time and begged me to abort the child. Arya, we are just forced to marry. After a while, when I divorce her, I will definitely give you another child, okay? The relatives and friends around me were waiting to see the joke. But I obediently agreed and walked into the hospital that day. The man didn't know that this was the last chance I gave him. Yo, this little girl has grown up and even learned to use pregnancy to threaten Elias to interrupt the wedding. Unexpectedly, it backfired. This person is quite cunning. Elias rescued her from the deep mountains and raised her, yet she dared to climb into Elias's bed and even dared to provoke the bride. She is really shameless. At this moment, countless spits splashed on my face, and Elias passed by me with his bride Vivian in his arms, not even giving me a glance. It was clearly he who said he would marry me when I grew older. But now, he married someone else and didn't even defend me, making me completely the woman who disregards ethics in the eyes of relatives and friends. Elias carried Vivian into the car, helped her apply medicine to her feet, glanced at me, and then looked at her with heartache. She's just a child, and you really played along with her. There are so many scratches on your feet for no reason. Are you trying to make me feel heartbroken? It turns out that in his eyes, the red marks on the bride's feet are more important than my being forced to have an abortion. He completely forgot that I was also the little ancestor he had pampered in his hands for more than 10 years. All my former wildness had been smoothed into today's obedience since Vivian appeared. The wedding ceremony was held as usual, and I didn't go to see it, but during the bridal chamber teasing, Vivian dragged me along, saying it was to bring good luck. But as soon as I entered, I heard her making a pretentious request to Elias. Mother said that on the wedding night, we need your junior to roll on the bed. I want to invite Arya, but I'm afraid she will hold a grudge. Suddenly, the lively wedding room fell into dead silence. Everyone looked at me, and I just wanted to hear what Elias would say. The child in my belly was already gone, and I had been labeled a shameful slut by relatives and friends. His eyes seemed to show reluctance, but after Vivian inadvertently lifted her leg, revealing the swelling on her ankle, he looked at me pleadingly and said hesitantly, "Yes, Arya is like my sister, and it's most appropriate for her to roll on the bed. Your sister-in-law has already spoken, Arya, you will agree, right?" I almost forgot that Elias had never acknowledged me to outsiders. Nominally, we were siblings. Vivian and he were childhood sweethearts, and after she returned to the country, they became intimate due to the marriage alliance. In the Pai family, because of Elias's favor, I could be lawless. But now, the pampering is gone. Who else would look up to me, a parasite? I swallowed the bitterness in my mouth and asked, "Does this count as one of the things you require me to do?" Elias was stunned. Something flashed through his mind. He originally wanted to say no, but after Vivian arrogantly put her leg on him, he was distracted again. "Yes, it counts." I humbly said, "Okay, I agree." Once, I also had a happy and complete family, but the day I was abducted by human traffickers into the deep mountains, the world was left in desolation. When I was tortured beyond recognition, it was Elias who descended from the sky to save me from the hell on earth. After many twists and turns, he helped me find my biological parents. But I was told that my parents died in a car accident while looking for me. Standing in front of my parents' tombstone, he said he would take care of me, and I asked him how to repay this kindness. He looked at me with eyes full of pity, as if I were a treasure in his palm. Elias doesn't need repayment, just think of it as me liking children. But having seen the evil of human hearts in the small mountain village, I precociously asked, "Are you a pedophile?" Elias was so shocked that he coughed repeatedly and quickly made a decision. "Then you will fulfill 99 requests for me, or after I abandon you 99 times, the debt of gratitude will be cancelled." For the next 11 years, I accompanied him through the bloody storms in the Pai family, and he never used any of the 99 requests. But in just 2 months after Vivian appeared, he had already used 96 of them. Only 2 left, and then we would part ways. I got on the bed, rolling in humiliation while saying auspicious words. "Roll on the bed, may you have many children." The boy rolls, "May you soon have a grandson." The wedding room was suddenly filled with laughter. The lines were forcibly required by them. Elias didn't stop it. I held back my tears, and when I finished rolling and sat up, I was suddenly startled by the evil smile on Vivian's lips. The next moment, for some reason, the red silk tore open with a big hole. It was right under me. The crowd suddenly exclaimed, and I was pushed, falling off the bed, my head hitting the wall. Immediately, my forehead ached dully, my vision darkened, and my elbow hurt badly. Vivian pointed at the torn spot, crying pitifully, "Arya, if you don't want to bring us blessings, you can refuse, but by tearing the bedsheet, are you deliberately trying to bring us bad luck?" The snobs who used to flatter me took the opportunity to add insult to injury. "I think you are deliberately retaliating. Damaging the wedding cloth on the wedding night is to curse the newlyweds with great misfortune. How can you be so vicious?" Elias saw that I was injured and originally wanted to come forward to comfort me, but upon hearing this, he stopped abruptly. "Arya, you've made enough trouble today. Apologize to Vivian, or else." Vivian, still thinking about the wedding night, pretended to be magnanimous. "It's okay, husband. The little girl is just jealous and playing tricks. The night is short, let's not delay." "I just wanted to leave this place quickly," said sorry, and walked out of the room rubbing my forehead. Seeing my pale face as I passed by him, Elias grabbed my arm and said worriedly, "Shall I call a doctor to check on you?" Seeing that it would delay the wedding night, Vivian signaled to the others. They immediately understood and quickly pulled Elias to the bride's side. "Elias, don't ruin the wedding night with the bride because of a damned girl." Yes, Elias is about to have his wedding night, some idle people should quickly leave." Damned girl? Idle person? These people have forgotten their flattery towards me in the past. Indeed, they were pleasing Elias's favorite, which used to be me and now is Vivian. Because of their bias, the estrangement between Elias and me grew deeper. It was all in vain. As soon as I stepped out, the others followed closely, all gathering by the door to eavesdrop. I didn't want to join in this excitement and was about to leave when Vivian's best friend grabbed me. "Little girl, don't be in a hurry to leave. Come and listen, compare who Elias is more vigorous with." I couldn't help but grit my teeth and was about to retort when the door suddenly opened. Elias rarely spoke sternly. "Everyone, disperse, don't disturb Vivian's rest." After everyone left, he pulled me to the side of the corridor and said lightly, "My marriage with Vivian is just an alliance. We have agreed to divorce. Don't worry, I won't make you have an abortion, and I won't touch her tonight. Moreover, you have few relatives. By marrying Vivian, you have one more family member, one more person who loves you like I do. You should be happy, Arya." "Alright, Vivian has arranged a honeymoon. You go back first, and next time when there's a chance, I'll take you, okay?" After saying that, Elias left in a hurry. He didn't know that after repaying the debt of gratitude, I would leave. There would be no next time. Early in the morning, when I saw Vivian again, the hickeys on her neck hurt my eyes. Ignoring Vivian's smugness, I directly boarded the plane and flew back to Shenzhen. As soon as I entered the house, the special assistant had already delivered the gifts Elias sent me, a Yuan Dynasty G blue glazed white dragon pattern plum vase and a scroll of the Lone Bird by Badashanran from the Qing Dynasty, each worth over $1 million. Elias specifically conveyed that the first one was compensation for forcing me to have an abortion, and the second one was an apology for making me roll on the bed. The maids at home once again looked at me with envy. Miss is so lucky, being treated like an ancestor by Elias every day. But they didn't know that these were just compensations Elias sent every time he hurt me. I indifferently placed the items on the antique shelf in the study, in the compartments labeled 96 and 97. Looking up at the full shelf, only 2 spaces were left. I knew that the day of leaving was not far away. With the appointment slip, I went to the hospital for the abortion surgery. After guiltily asking the nurse to dispose of the embryo, I weakly went home to pack my luggage. Everything I had was given by Elias, so there wasn't much I could take. The only most important thing that I must take was my parents' memorial tablet in my bedroom. When I was abducted, I was too young, and their appearances had long been blurred. I only remembered my parents' names. The words on the memorial tablet were carved by Elias and me together. It was a comfort, reminding me that I was a child loved by my parents. Even if one day Elias abandoned me, my parents would still be there. As soon as I entered, I found that Elias had unexpectedly returned. When he saw me, it was as if he saw a savior, and he quickly pulled me to help him pack his luggage. In these daily trifles, Elias was particularly dependent on me, as if he really treated me as his wife, living with me. But today, he was somewhat uneasy, as if hiding something. When passing by my bedroom, there was some noise. I sensed something was wrong and pushed the door open abruptly. After seeing the situation, my brain buzzed. In my bedroom, my parents' altar was smashed to pieces. My parents' memorial tablet was thrown on the ground, broken into pieces. Vivian and the maids were trying to destroy the evidence. Get out. Don't touch my parents. I drove everyone away, squatted down, hugged the tablet, and cried. Vivian's voice came leisurely. Sorry, little sister, I came to your room to visit and accidentally saw the dead person's tablet, which scared me, and I didn't notice and broke your parents' tablet. But this tablet is too crudely made, and the carved words are ugly. It really should be replaced. I found a better craftsman to carve a new pair for you, so you should be happy now, right? I shouted at her frantically, I don't want yours. Elias frowned and stepped forward to hold me. Arya. Don't make a fuss over nothing. You didn't show filial piety when they were alive, and now that they are dead, who are you pretending for? Vivian is helping you replace it with a new memorial tablet, and instead of being grateful, you are getting angry? I looked at him in astonishment. Why can't I show filial piety? Don't you know? Because I was abducted, my parents sold their property and searched day and night just to find me. On the day of the car accident, my parents learned of my clues and sped to find me, which led to the accident. My parents' death is my lifelong regret. It was Elias who saved me and let me see the light of day, but I didn't expect that he could hurt me so accurately. Elias was stunned for a moment, and I thought he would understand me, but he said, Arya, stop making trouble. I'll accompany you to carve another pair of memorial tablets later. Vivian also covered her face and wiped her tears, pretending to blame herself. Husband, it's all my fault for being clumsy and timid. Why did I touch it randomly? I should have let the tablet scare me to death. If because of me, it hurts the relationship between you siblings, I won't live anymore. She was indeed malicious because she knew that my parents were my weak spot and did it on purpose. And Elias, between her and me, would always side with her. As soon as she finished speaking, as many times before, Elias decisively embraced her and coaxed her gently, it's just a piece of broken wood. It's its fault for scaring you. If you want, I'll chop it up and burn it as firewood. You must not blame yourself. Vivian looked at me, sobbing continuously, but little sister. She has a child's temper, she'll forget after being coaxed. Get out. I was furious but helpless, so I drove both of them out of the bedroom. I don't want to see you. I slammed the door shut and fell into a deadly silence alone. Guarding the memorial tablet that was already shattered on the ground, I cried my heart out and then completely collapsed. Perhaps, my parents were also telling me from heaven that the debt of gratitude should end, and I should not trap myself in a cage anymore. After my tears dried up, I gathered the broken wood and put it into a box. On the back of the abortion surgery form, I wrote the 98th time. At some point, the door was opened, and Elias's voice came from behind, with a faint unease. What does 98 mean? As he spoke, he tried to take the abortion form. I quickly snatched the paper back, put it into the box, and covered it. Nothing, just words written to my parents. After I finished speaking, Elias sensed my concealment and seemed to think of something. What, you still remember the words I used to deceive you as a child? You still want to send things to your parents? He was referring to the silly things I often did as a child. Because I learned that my parents lived underground and lacked clothing and food, I saved various things and put them into a box. I pulled Elias to dig a hole in the backyard and buried the box to send it to my parents. For a while after I grew up, whenever the past was mentioned, Elias would always tease me. I didn't expect him to remember. Seeing that he misunderstood, I didn't say much and obediently went along with it. The joy of childhood made his usually stern face show a rare smile. All right, you're so grown up now, don't do those stupid things. Quickly open the gift I sent you this time. The assistant at the door pushed in a box, and when opened, it was golden silk Nanmu wood, very valuable. Elias hugged my waist and said gently, I know you're sad that the memorial tablet was broken, so I specially snatched the old man's private collection to apologize to you. Silly girl, I'll accompany you to carve the words on the tablet again, okay? The maids outside were all dazzled. But I was surprisingly calm. Put it in the study. Then I pulled away the hand on my waist and said lightly, no need to carve it, Elias. For so many years, I am already grateful for your care. Elias's face gradually turned pale, staring at me fixedly, as if trying to see through all the flaws. Arya, what do you mean by that? I calmly left his encirclement. Seeing you and Miss Vivian in love, I just want to express a few words of thanks. Don't get excited, Elias. But my words did not ease him. Elias kept staring at my face, seemingly sensing something was wrong. Arya, your face, why is it so pale? I was stunned, suddenly realizing that I had just had an abortion and my body was weak, and I forgot to apply blush. Are you hiding something from me? He gripped my shoulders tightly with his big hands, wanting a response. After a long silence, he still didn't get my explanation. Finally, he snorted coldly, slammed the door loudly, and left angrily. I knew he was with Vivian tonight. Sure enough, Vivian sent me a kissing photo to show off, and I decisively turned off my phone and had a good night's sleep. Since I am a master's student in archaeology, I went directly to school early in the morning and submitted an application to join the Longji Mountain Archaeological Project. My mentor was overjoyed to include me in the team and said I could set off at any time. I planned to part ways with Elias amicably, go home and ask him to fulfill one request, then take my things and leave. But as soon as I left the school gate, I was knocked out and taken away. When I opened my eyes again, in front of me was Vivian and a group of tattooed men. Arya, why are you so despicable? We are already married, why are you still clinging to Elias? Sensing something was wrong, I pretended to be obedient. I didn't intend to cling to him. I've already aborted the child, and I will leave him. Elias dotes on her so much and is willing to marry her. Am I, a nameless wild girl, worth her making such a big fuss? Vivian sneered with a hooked lip, you do have self-awareness, otherwise, there would probably be an extra pool of blood on the ground today. But Arya, only if you die can I secure my position as Mrs. Elias. Beat her first. As she spoke, Vivian waved her hand, and several tattooed men began to punch and kick me. I immediately held my head and cried out in pain, Vivian, are you crazy? Aren't you afraid that Elias will retaliate against you when he finds out? She waved her hand to stop them, then poked my face with her heel, saying with interest, then let's wait and see if he really cares about you. My whole body was in pain, watching the tattooed men busy for a while, then tying Vivian and me back to back. A moment later, there was a roar in my ears, and outside the abandoned factory, Elias ran in hurriedly with a suitcase. Seeing my face full of injuries, he was shocked and furious, roaring, bastards! How dare you hit her? Don't be afraid, Arya, I'm here to take you home. As the suitcase was taken, he strode towards me. But Vivian suddenly fell out from behind me, crying out for help. "Husband, don't worry about me, save my sister first. These people are after the He family, and my sister is innocently implicated. As long as my sister is okay, I don't mind dying here today." At this moment, Elias realized that she was also there. The tattooed man weighed the gun and said leisurely, "Elias, you can only take one of them away, the one left behind must die. You, think carefully." Elias's charging steps suddenly stopped, and he instantly changed his attitude, saying to me with difficulty, "Arya, Vivian saved my life, I can't ignore her. I'll save Vivian first, and you wait for me a little longer." Vivian's self-righteous drama could be seen through at a glance if Elias paid attention. But he still believed these lies and abandoned me once again. He pointed at Vivian and shouted, "I choose Vivian." This sentence was like a sharp blade piercing my heart, instantly making it bleed. I looked up at him in despair. "Elias, this is the last time." He met my ashen eyes, his heart aching as if beinged, a strong sense of emptiness surged, as if the person in front was within reach but couldn't be grasped. He was about to ask, but Vivian suddenly fell to the ground vomiting blood, as if about to die. Elias panicked, all doubts were cut off in an instant, and he picked up Vivian and ran out. "Arya, trust me, I will come back to save you." The moment he ran out of the abandoned gate, a cold gun barrel was pressed against my forehead. The tattooed man grinned mockingly, "Your man didn't choose you, so you're in trouble." A second before pulling the trigger, a gunshot rang out, blowing the tattooed man's head off, and a group of police rushed in to save me. Elias didn't come. When I was sent to the ambulance, I received a message from Vivian, "Arya, I won't let him go back to see you, do you believe it?" At the same time, Elias called, "I heard the police have saved you. Vivian is seriously injured and can't be left alone. You go home first, and I'll see you when I get back, be good." Before I could answer, he hung up the phone and disappeared. During the treatment in the same hospital, he didn't come to see me even once. Instead, Vivian reported their daily life to me every day, and I could even hear about their loving daily life from the nurses. I quietly left the hospital and went home to take my household registration book from the secret compartment. After I turned 18 and confirmed my relationship with Elias, he paved the way for our marriage by separating me from the Pai family and establishing a separate household, just to marry me smoothly. But now, I took the household registration book only to leave him. I took out a piece of paper, wrote 99 on the breakup letter, and wrote 2 lines on the back, "Goodbye, Elias. The debt of gratitude for many years has been repaid, even if we are destined, we won't meet again." I handed the box containing the broken memorial tablet, the abortion form, and the breakup letter to the maid, asking her to pass it to Elias. The maid reluctantly said, "Miss, Elias personally moved the antiques he gave you to the study. Won't you take a look?" I replied indifferently, "No." Carrying simple luggage, I boarded the plane and flew to Longji Mountain. "Elias, from now on, let's each live well." When I had already arrived at Longji Mountain and entered the team to go down to the tomb, Elias finally returned home. Not seeing my lively figure, he asked the maid in confusion, "Where did Arya go? Why isn't she at home?" The maid shook her head and handed over a box to Elias. "Elias, Miss said you don't need to worry about her. This is what she left for you before she left." Elias was stunned, opened the box, and suddenly saw the abortion form. He immediately froze in place, his pupils dilated. With trembling hands, he carefully examined the abortion form. The veins on his forehead gradually bulged. "This is Arya's abortion record?" Elias could hardly stand. He supported himself against the wall and carefully looked at the information on the report again. When he spoke again, even his voice was trembling. "She hid it from me and aborted our child?" Elias held the abortion record in his hand and couldn't recover for a long time. He couldn't believe it and looked at it over and over again. He kept murmuring, "No, it can't be. She has loved me for 10 years, how could she bear to casually abort our child?" His whole body trembled violently, and he suddenly picked up the breakup letter to read. His gaze fixed on the letter. Elias was silent for a long time. The letter seemed very long. Elias read it for a very long time. But only I knew that there were only 2 lines written on it. Goodbye, Elias. The debt of gratitude for many years has been fully repaid. Even if we are destined, we won't meet. Finally, Elias tore the letter to pieces, drove everyone away, and even smashed the tea table worth millions to pieces. The maid looked at him with red eyes and said in a muffled voice, Elias, since you got together with Miss Vivian, you have been too cold to Mississippi. She has been depressed all day, and I see it and feel pain in my heart. If you really don't love her anymore, actually, this is also good. The string in Elias's mind snapped instantly, and he roared like a wild beast. No, I absolutely won't allow her to leave me. I love her. How could I not love her? Then why did you marry Miss Vivian? The maid's words were sharp and pierced Elias's heart directly. Upon hearing this, he was stunned, and a tear fell from the corner of his eye. He wanted to defend himself, but when he thought of what he did at the wedding, in the bedroom, and at the abandoned factory, he couldn't help but lower his eyes and remain silent, his defense stuck in his throat. He carried the box to Aria's room. Everything was unchanged, but the lively figure was no longer there. But he couldn't believe it. Then why did Aria willingly wait for him for so many years? He lowered his eyes, red with tears, and suddenly realized that Aria seemed completely different from before. So, was it because Aria loved him that she ground herself into the gentle and obedient type he liked? Thinking of this, Elias couldn't help but shed tears and looked around the room repeatedly. Aria left but took nothing with her. Many couple items she bought, toothbrushes, clothes, accessories were just placed there, untouched. Indeed, before, he always found Aria troublesome. He was afraid that if outsiders knew they were together, it would damage his personal dignity. So their relationship was confined to this house, and he always had various excuses to drive Aria away from his side. Elias clenched the couple's shirt on the hanger. Tears fell on it, and only then did he realize how much of Aria's passionate love he had missed. Now, not only was Aria gone, but their only child was also gone. He didn't even know where to find her. But he had to find her. He knew he absolutely couldn't lose her. He called his assistant, his tone firm and urgent. Aria is missing. Go find her, at all costs. Even if you have to turn the entire Shinching upside down, find her. After receiving the order, the assistant didn't hang up and continued, by the way, Elias, regarding the kidnapping of Miss Aria and Miss Vivian, we have found some clues. Speak, Elias said coldly. The assistant hesitated. There is an overseas account that transferred 10 million to the kidnappers. After cracking it, we found it was the He family's private account. After catching the kidnappers, they also admitted that it was Miss Vivian who paid them to stage this act for you to see, and then kill Miss Aria. After hearing everything, Elias clenched his fists tightly, his temples throbbing. He couldn't believe that Vivian, who had once saved his life and was gentle and magnanimous in front of him, was actually the mastermind behind the kidnapping and even intended to kill Aria. She was utterly vicious and insidious. He gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, "Bring Vivian here." The assistant complied and directly tied Vivian up and threw her into the basement. When she saw Elias again, Vivian was covered in blood and embarrassment, no longer showing any trace of the noble demeanor of a wealthy family's daughter. With a bruised and swollen face, she crawled and grabbed Elias's pant leg, begging humbly, "Elias, I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. Please don't kill me. Everything I did was because I love you. I have no sense of security and am afraid you will be taken away by others. I really love you too much, I can't control myself." Elias pinched her chin, forcing her to look directly at him. "Can't control yourself, so you kidnap her, beat her, and even kill her? Vivian, didn't I tell you that Aria is my person and asked you to treat her well? But what did you do? She decided to leave me, all because of your tricks. I must make you pay the price." Before he finished speaking, Vivian on the side suddenly laughed sharply and raised her gloomy eyes to look at him. "She is a lowly person who was brought out from the mountains. Why can't I be better than her? Why should I share a man with her? Elias, I am the daughter of the He family. I can't touch you, but can't I deal with her? Wasn't it you who personally pushed her to me and let her be ruined? Wasn't it you who said to make her abort the child? You actually want to pick up something you threw away. Elias, you are quite despicable too. But Elias, I don't mind your despicability. Anyway, she has already left you, so it's perfect for us to be together. You know, the two of us represent the cooperation between the Bai and He families. Our interests are tied together. Isn't it good for the Bai and He families to join forces strongly? As for Arya, if you like her type, I can find you 10 or 20 of them. You are Bai Elias, what kind of woman can't you have? Seeing Vivian completely tear off her mask and even look somewhat insane, Elias instantly felt disgusted. Every sentence pierced into Elias's lungs, making it hard for him to breathe. He grabbed Vivian's neck with his big hand, pinned her against the wall, and said viciously, "She is not a lowly person, she is the treasure I have raised in my hands for more than 10 years. You and those other seductive sluts can't even compare to a single hair of hers. Losing her is my fault, I admit it, but without you, Arya and I wouldn't have come to this point. The root of all this is because of you." Vivian's true face had been exposed, so she simply spilled everything, her voice sharp and piercing. "Yes, it was me. You didn't know, did you? I asked her to help us choose wedding invitations, I deliberately made her serve me foot-washing water, I intentionally stepped on and broke her parents' memorial tablet, and I sent her many intimate photos of us. So what? Because of these, she completely abandoned you. Elias, she doesn't love you, that's all there is between you." Vivian went on and on, telling Elias how she had bullied and mistreated Arya behind his back over the years. With each thing she said, Elias's face grew darker, and by the end, his handsome face was twisted to the extreme. All his strength seemed to be drained, and Elias remained silent for a long time, the basement falling into dead silence. After a long while, Vivian was exhausted from speaking. Only then did Elias straighten up and say to the bodyguard behind him, "Play some tricks on her, just keep her alive." Seeing that she had gone too far, Vivian's pupils dilated, and she was so scared that she wet herself, screaming miserably, "Elias, I was wrong, I was wrong. I'll kowtow to Arya and apologize to her. We can divorce, but you can't treat me like this, you can't treat me like this, Elias." But her roars were replaced by sharp screams for the next 3 days. Whipping, clamping, branding, pulling out nails, cutting tendons. Elias watched as her limbs were pierced by iron hooks, her whole body hung in ice water, her body already whipped to the point of being covered in wounds, with bones clearly visible, and blood dripping down. She looked like she was about to die, but Elias deliberately didn't let her die. On one hand, he sent doctors to treat her, and on the other hand, he subjected her to extreme torture. Elias just wanted her to be a living dead. Vivian's disappearance was covered up by Elias single-handedly, and after paying off the He family, no one cared about her anymore. In half a month, he searched everywhere he could, but still couldn't find any trace of Arya. He could only drown his sorrows in alcohol every day, his heart torn apart in agony. Even so, he still held the abortion record taped together. He often wondered if Arya felt the same pain when she was on the abortion table as he did now. Or was it 1,000 times, 10,000 times more painful than he was now? He thought like this. And could only think. But every time he thought of this, he would fervently swear, "Arya, I will always find you. Arya, this time, I can't give up on you again." When I was enthusiastically climbing out of the ancient tomb with my senior brothers and sisters, I directly met Elias's gaze. After not seeing him for a month, he had lost weight, his eyes were bloodshot, and there were dark circles under his eyes, he looked like he had been scavenging. The moment he saw me, sparks burst in his eyes, and he rushed towards me urgently. Before he could get close, I smelled a strong smell of alcohol, it seemed he had come after a night of drinking. "Arya, I finally found you." I quickly took a big step back, keeping a distance from him. "Sir, please stay away from me. These cultural relics are very precious, please don't cause trouble." After this sentence made him stop in his tracks, I left with the cultural relics and my colleagues, leaving him alone in the wind. As a result, he blocked the entrance of my tent again, holding a bouquet of roses, kneeling on one knee to apologize to me. "Arya, please don't be so cold to me. I really know I was wrong. Now I just want to make it up to you properly. I saw the breakup letter and the abortion form you left, and I also know that it was Vivian who arranged to kidnap you. I have already severely retaliated against Vivian for you. Your room is cleaned every day by someone I arranged. Please give me another chance. This time, I will definitely love you well, and no one can surpass you, okay? Please come home with me, okay? We have so many years of feelings, you won't be so heartless to abandon me, right?" He became more and more choked up as he spoke, and finally cried out loud. But I felt nothing and just shrugged. "So you also know about our 10 years of feelings, Mr. Elias. If you really cared about our feelings, you wouldn't have married another woman after promising to marry me. If you really cared about me, you wouldn't have agreed to Vivian to abort our child. If you really cared about me, you wouldn't have chosen to save her and abandon me when Vivian and I were kidnapped. Elias, if you really cared about me, how could you have used up all 99 chances?" I stiffened my neck, holding back the anger in my heart. Upon hearing this, he was struck as if by lightning, seemingly remembering the promise between us. "Elias, how should I repay you?" "Elias doesn't need repayment, just think of it as me liking to raise children. Are you a pedophile? Cough cough. Then you will fulfill 99 requests for me, or after I abandon you 99 times, the debt of gratitude will be cancelled." The tall figure trembled violently and finally knelt humbly. I was just confused for a moment and thought wrong, but I love you. I reminded Vivian not to touch you, but she did it behind my back. I never thought of leaving you, Arya. His eyes were red and swollen, and he looked extremely fragile when crying. Before, I was very moved by this, the lofty Elias was willing to bow his head for me. But now, I just feel disgusted. I sneered, "So, I have to accept your so-called idea of the three of us living well together? Mr. Elias, I think you should know that promises you can't keep shouldn't be made lightly. I have repaid all that I owed, we are even now. I hope you can be more detached and not make me look down on you. And don't destroy the Elias I once truly loved in my heart." After throwing out the last sentence, I turned and left, and the roses in Elias's hand fell to the ground. He didn't try to keep me but just knelt there, constantly slapping himself, and then murmured, why is it like this now?" It was drizzling, and the entire archaeological team was busy protecting the ancient tomb site. No one paid attention to him kneeling on the ground. But while others were busy protecting the cultural relics, he stood in the middle of the road. He affected his colleagues' access to work, and he remained unmoved despite repeated dissuasion. I was annoyed. I ran to him and slapped him across the face. The crisp sound seemed to wake Elias up completely. Imitating the tone he used to speak to me before, I frowned and said disgustedly, "Can't you see how busy everyone is? Don't get in the way here. Also, it's Vivian who likes roses, I hate roses the most." The expected rebuttal, crying, and defense did not appear. Elias still knelt quietly beside me, motionless. It was as if we were repeating our previous state, he indifferently watched my irritability and anger. After sorting out my thoughts, I didn't want to say more to him. "Since you want to kneel in the rain, please kneel somewhere else, okay? I'm leaving first." After my anger, I walked a few steps, and he finally got up and followed a few steps behind me. Finally, across the construction cordon, he spoke, "Arya, I'll be willful this one time." I stopped in my tracks. After pausing for a few seconds, I continued walking forward. His voice still sounded behind me, "Arya, I regret it, I was wrong. I thought I was being willful once. But I didn't expect that I would miss your entire life." His back, which used to be straight, was now elongated by the moonlight in front of him. His whole person seemed to be crushed by the moonlight. I took a deep breath, looking at the person in front of me, who no longer had the appearance I used to like. I sighed lightly, "Elias, let yourself go. Perhaps, you just can't adapt to not having someone always by your side. If you want my forgiveness, I forgive you. The one sunk in the dark past is me, and the one I blame has always been only myself. Afterwards, I said a lot. I don't know if Elias heard it or not. After speaking, I returned to the work area and hurriedly went back to sort out the cultural relics. He stayed for a moment and finally left, never to appear again. The next time I heard news about Elias was a month later. The assistant called me and said that after Elias had sorted out and handed over everything in the Pai family, he committed suicide. Before he died, he left a will, leaving all his shares and property to me, so the lawyer asked him to contact me to ask how to handle it. When I heard it, I was unexpectedly calm. It had been so long since I heard Elias's name that it seemed somewhat unfamiliar. I just felt a bit emotional. He still trapped himself in a dead end and couldn't get out. I replied lightly, donate it, do whatever with it, just consider it as doing good deeds on his behalf. The assistant said okay and hung up the phone. And I sat on the hillside, looking at the lush mountains in the distance, holding a handful of yellow soil under my feet. In the next life, let's not meet again, Elias. The yellow soil flew away with the wind, and everything returned to dust. And my life was just beginning.